Oil prices might be down, but business here is still booming.
But transitioning to gas carries...
Not so much a magical touch, but trade stands show there's still plenty of money in the energy business. Investments and political stability, though, are different challenges.
For the first time in history, for the past 4 or 5 years, we have abundance of resources. Before, we were talking always about the scarcity of resources. But now, there is a huge amount of oil, huge amount of coal, huge amount of gas. What happens when you have huge supply and limited demand? Then the prices come down. Then, if you are an investor, you don't see any prospect for the future to invest more in energy because there is not enough demand. There is huge surplus.
US Secretary of State Rex Tillerson was on stage to receive a career award after 41 years in the oil business. Before politics, he was chief executive of ExxonMobil.
That Turkey sits at the crossroads of vital energy resources along supply routes and routes to consumers.
He was also here to discuss Syria and Qatar with the Turkish government. So far, the Qatari economy, so dependent on its natural gas resource, hasn't been jeopardized, despite a Saudi and United Arab Emirates-led blockade.
And within 5 years, Qatar maybe will jump from 77 million tons of LNG to 100 million LNG. Today, Qatar are the biggest LNG producers, are the biggest GTL producers, and we will be continuously.
So you don't think there's any danger at all,
no,
regardless of the dispute?
No. The whole, many countries, they are heavily independent in Qatar gas.
At this gathering of oil and gas executives, it seems that Saudi and Qatari interests are very close together. Their trade stands are right beside each other. So perhaps the organisers of this event and the Turkish government were just very gently nudging them together to try and discuss their differences. The Gulf crisis is still comparatively new. The industry and international diplomats hope the Saudis, Emiratis and the Qataris can resolve their differences soon. The focus of this gathering is cooperation and competition. To achieve that, investors need certainty to expand drilling. And the Qataris, in this regard, have a clear advantage in the Gulf region. Iolo Dafydd, TRT World, at the World Petroleum Congress, Istanbul.
And Gaurav Sharma is the business editor at the International Business Times and an oil market analyst. He's been at the World Petroleum Congress and he's now with us on set. Gaurav, thank you ever so much for being here. Tell us a little bit about what the mood was like on the floor there. I mean, we got a quick taste of what things were like from Iolo's report, but from your perspective, what was it like over there?
Wearing an analyst's hat on, to be honest with you, one word, a bit tense. Well, there's 3 there, right there for you. But the way it is that all of them are OPEC partners, yet a few are sparring with Qatar. Now, I see the situation getting a lot worse before it gets better, and it's come at the worst possible time, whether you're looking at natural gas prices, whether you're looking at oil prices. It just came right out of the blue. On the 25th of May at OPEC, both the Qatari minister and the Saudi minister were all smiles, and suddenly, a few weeks hence, we have this.
Yeah, it is an interesting turn of events, isn't it? I mean, as Iolo said in that report, the Gulf countries are heavily interdependent in terms of energy. What is the likelihood that they may use that interdependence to try and resolve this crisis?
I see it getting a lot worse before it gets better. Yes, there is an element of interdependence. I mean, the Qatari minister, Mr. Al-Sada, said this morning at the conference, he reiterated that Qatar remains committed to the OPEC agreement of the 25th of May. Yes, be that as it may, he also reiterated that Qatari LNG exports are on song. He pointed out to the assembled press and analyst corps that only 8% of Qatar's total LNG exports go to the UAE, Bahrain and the Saudis put together. And yet, at the same time, we have something around 75% of its production going to South Korea, to Japan, to India. It's major LNG markets where the exports are on song.
Let's turn to oil itself now. Now, Saudi Aramco's CEO, this is the main Saudi state-owned oil company, Amin Nasser, who we've interviewed on this show, he's been quoted today as saying that the world may be heading for a shortage of oil because investment in new supplies has lagged behind. Does he have a point there?
He has a point, because at the present moment in time where we stand, I do not see the oil price firing up at all. Unfortunately, I'm not the only one who's saying so. I see the oil price languishing in the 40s and the 50s for a considerable amount of time before we see anything short of a recovery. And why is that? Because there's surplus US oil on the market. Almost everybody at the Petroleum Congress there is near consensus there, if I may say so, that US production will be in excess of 10 million barrels per day in 2018. How much? It could be as high as 10.3. Now, over the short to medium term, because shale has such high decline rates, surplus oil will come onto the market, US shale that is.
Let me stop you for a second there. What do you mean by decline rates for our audience?
I see. Now the way I put it is that shale production escalates quite dramatically, okay, but the decline rates, i.e. the low production, is just as dramatic. So the Americans cannot keep this production going, say, by around 2025, hypothetically speaking. Now, the production jumps spectacularly, but so is the decline in production. That's basically what we're saying here.
So that's what's contributing to
indeed
maintaining the prices roughly where they are.
So the markets have, shall I say, a huge medium-term problem, if I may say so. And in that time, if final investment decisions, the last call these oil companies have in terms of investing in oil and gas projects, falters, then yes, there could be a shortage because there's just very little investment.
Gaurav, we are running out of time, but great to have your analysis. Look forward to having you back on Money Talk sometime in the near future. This story is not going away.